Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin. Allahumma la sahla illa ma ja'altahu sahla wa anta taj'alul hazna idha shi'ta sahla. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي لله تعالى. Correct your intentions. The author says, may Allah have mercy upon him, قال المؤلف رحمه الله وكرامات الأولياء حق. The supernatural sainthood privileges for the saints, the supernatural privileges for the saints is real. The supernatural sainthood privileges are real. فيظهر الكرامة على طريق نقض العادة للولي. And so, God creates, He manifests the privilege by way of defying nature for the saint. فيظهر الكرامة على طريق نقض العادة للولي من قطع المسافة البعيدة, such as covering far distance في المدة القليلة, in short time. Those are Ahlul Khutwah, the people of the footsteps. They take few steps, will be very far away. وظهور الطعام والشراب واللباس عند الحاجة, and the appearance of food and drink and clothing whenever they need it. Like one of those saints, he'll just lift up a rock, there will be money there, and he'll take it. وَالْمَشْيِ عَلَى الْمَاءِ, and walking on water. وَالطَّيَرَانِ فِي الْهَوَاءِ, and flying in the air. وَكَلَامِ الْجَمَادِ وَالْعَجْمَاءِ, and conversing with inanimate objects and animals. وَغَيْرِ ذَلِكَ مِنَ الْأَشْيَاءِ, and other types of things. Like Allah may give him super strength. Like when Ali carried that castle door on his arm, or he makes the door light for him. Either would make his arm strong or make the door light. And other things. ويكون ذلك معجزة للرسول الذي ظهرت هذه الكرامة لواحد من أمته. And this privilege would be at the same time a miracle of the messenger, for whom someone from his nation, for whom there has appeared from someone from his nation this privilege, this supernatural phenomenon. لأنه يظهر بها أنه ولي, because by it, it would be obvious that this person is a saint. By it, it appears that this person is a saint, and this is a pious person we're talking about here, we already know that evil people sometimes can also do supernatural phenomenon, even other than magic. Magic is haram. So we're not even talking about magic here, which could be supernatural also phenomenon. So we're talking about the supernatural phenomenon that happens to a pious person, a God-fearing person, who's not a prophet. وَلَنْ يَكُونَ وَلِيًّا إِلَّا أَنْ يَكُونَ مُحِقًّا فِي دِيَانَتِهِ. And he would not be a saint unless he were true in his religiosity. وَدِيَانَتُهُ الْإِقْرَارُ بِرِسَالَةِ رَسُولِهِ. And his religiosity is confession to the message of his messenger. Yani, complete, perfect adherence to it. That's what makes him a saint. Iqrar here is not merely confessing with the tongue. He's talking about a saint here. الشرح مما يجب الإيمان به وجود الأولياء وكراماتهم. The explanation. Amongst what is obligatory to believe in is the existence of saints and their supernatural privileges. والولي هو المؤمن المستقيم بطاعة الله. The saint is the believer who is straight upon God's obedience. So that's easy word to say there. That means something very big. والاستقامة هي لزوم طاعة الله. And the straightness is adherence to the obedience of God. Adherence, that means always doing. Being consistent. Not going back and forth. If a person goes back and forth, sometimes he sins, sometimes he's good. Sometimes he sins, sometimes he's good. Then he doesn't have this istiqamah, the straightness that the Shaykh is talking about. The istiqamah is consistent obedience. بأداء الواجبات واجتناب المحرمات. By fulfilling the obligations and avoiding the prohibitions. والإكثار من نوافل العبادات. And doing a lot of voluntary worships. قال تعالى, said God, exalted is He. No. Yeah, I didn't stop here because something that I always was repeating, but I should have repeated right here now, which is explain more. وَالْإِكْثَارُ مِنْ نَوَافِلِ الْعِبَادَاتِ. And on top of doing the obligations and avoiding the sins, all of them, he does voluntary worships. And that means consistently. So, without doing the voluntary worships consistently and only doing all the obligations and avoiding all the prohibitions, then you're only going to be at the level of God-fearing, which is a high level. But still, there's a higher level than God-fearing. Higher level than God-fearing is sainthood. What takes the person over the top, as they say? It is doing those voluntary worships, at least one kind, consistently, along with doing all the obligations and avoiding all the sins consistently. This means he has to go through some extended time with no sins and with optional worships. So the people who really, really work for wilaya, because that's the status you can strive for. Maybe Allah would make it easy for someone. Maybe Allah makes it challenging for someone. Maybe some people have no interest in being saints at all. Some people, they would even just prefer to be sinners.
Can I ask you a quick question, please?
Yeah.
You know how you said in one of your classes very recently about somebody not, like especially women, not finding it as easy to attain wilaya. Is that really the case?
Yes, that's really the case. It's not easy. It's not as easy for a woman to attain wilaya, or you could say it another way: it's easier for a man to attain wilaya. It's not impossible for a woman to attain wilaya.
So even if she were to perform all of her obligations and stay away from sins, for example, that would not, and do acts of worship, for example, that would not really guarantee.
Well, no, if she does it, if she does what would get her into the status of wilaya, she will become a waliya. So can she do it? That's here is her challenge. So she can get there.
Barakallahu fikum.
Ameen wa fikum. قال تعالى, said the exalted, إن الذين قالوا ربنا الله ثم استقاموا تتنزل عليهم الملائكة ألا تخافوا ولا تحزنوا وأبشروا بالجنة التي كنتم توعدون. This means, indeed, those who say, Rabbuna Allah, Allah is our Lord. This means they have correct religion. ثُمَّ اسْتَقَامُوا, and then they went straight. Means they don't go back and forth. They don't go from side to side. They're not wavering. تَتَنَزَّلُ عَلَيْهِمُ الْمَلَائِكَةُ, the angels descend upon them, saying, أَلَّا تَخَافُوا وَلَا تَحْزَنُوا, fear not and grieve not. وَأَبْشِرُوا بِالْجَنَّةِ الَّتِي كُنْتُمْ تُوعَدُونَ, and take the glad tidings of the garden that you have been promised. So this ayah is about the Awliya. The point there. And those will die as believers. If someone reaches the status of a wali, the status of wilaya, of sainthood, it's not just now he can do karamas. If he reached the status of wilaya, then he shall die forgiven. He shall die forgiven. Hakada. He will not be punished in the afterlife. none of the awliya are punished in the afterlife. So this means what? This means they become divinely protected from kufr. A wali, a saint, will never commit kufr. They have ismah. They don't have ismah from major sin though, but they won't commit major sins often. If they committed a major sin, it will be rare. And they would repent before they die. ثم الكرامة أمر خارق للعادة. Furthermore, the privilege is a matter supernatural. تظهر على يد الولي. It appears at the hands of a saint. ومن المهم في هذه المسألة معرفة الفرق بين الكرامة والمعجزة والسحر. And amongst what is important in this case is knowing the difference between a privilege and a miracle and magic. وما أشبه ذلك. And what's like that كالاستدراج, like the lure الذي يظهر على يد الفاسق. This supernatural lore that appears at the hands of a vice doer, of an evil doer. فالفرق بين المعجزة والكرامة أن المعجزة تكون مقرونة بالتحدي. Now the difference between a prophet's miracle and a saint's privilege is that the miracle would be associated with a challenge. لإثبات مدعي النبوة صدقه. It is for the one who claims prophethood to prove his truthfulness. So he comes, he claims to be a prophet, and then as evidence, he would do some supernatural feat, like point at the moon and it will break into two pieces, or throw his staff and turns into a dragon, or tap a boulder and then a camel comes out of it, or touch a dead person and make him come back to life. Or other things. So a prophet does miracles as evidence of his prophethood. وأنه يجب أن تكون المعجزة ظاهرة بخلاف الكرامة. And that it's necessary that a miracle would be outward, obvious, as opposed to a saint's privilege. Yani, it's necessary that a prophet's miracle would be obvious, as opposed to a saint's privilege, because a saint doesn't have to prove he's a saint. He's not doing supernatural feats to prove he's a saint. He wants to hide from you the fact that he's a saint. He does those supernatural things, yani Allah grants him that as a privilege. So this doesn't have to be obvious, because the saint in the first place doesn't have to prove something here. فإنها لا تكون مقترنة بالتحدي. The saint's privilege is not associated with a challenge. Why would a prophet's miracle be associated with a challenge? Because The Prophet is saying to the people, you must believe in me. You have to listen to me. You have to do what I tell you to do. You cannot disobey me. If you disobey me, you'll be disobeying your Lord. That's what all the prophets were telling their people and meaning. Allah told us that in the Quran. They said, Ati'un, obey me. So if this is his case, he's saying, if you don't obey me, then you go to hell. Obey me or go to hell. So then if this is real, if that's true, then he has to have evidence. So what's his evidence going to be? It's going to be a miracle. وَتَكُونُ لِلدِّلَالَةِ على صدق اتباع صاحبها لنبيه. And this privilege of a saint would be proof to the loyalty of this follower of his prophet. This prophet follower who performs supernatural feats, like taking few steps and being far away, and other things. When he does something like that, it does prove something, but he doesn't have to prove to you, but it does prove something, which is it proves the perfection of his loyalty and devotion to the way of his prophet. لكن يجوز أن يتحدى الولي بها لإثبات ولايته. لكن يجوز أن يتحدى الولي بها لإثبات ولايته. However, it is possible that a saint would perform some supernatural feat to prove that he is a saint. It's possible, it's not impossible, because maybe there's a benefit. He might do that to benefit the people and make the people become Muslims. Like some of the stories we learned about. So person would do Karamat amongst the people, and then the people would become Muslims. Like what story? Like the story of the boy who followed Prophet Jesus. And he became a saint. And the king of his area wanted to kill him for his religion. And now I don't remember all how it goes exactly in order, but so I'm just paraphrasing for you. He had them take him to a mountain cliff to throw him off the cliff. And this boy came back by himself. Rather, the people who were supposed to throw him off the cliff, they wound up falling off the cliff. He came back by himself. So he had them take him to throw him in the sea, to drown him. And he came back by himself. And he told him, you can't kill me unless you do what I tell you to do. So this is Wali here doing something. So he said, what? He told him, you tie me to this tree, you get your archer, and you hit me in my temple when your archer says Bismillah. He shoots his arrow saying, Bismillahi Rabbi hadha al-ghulam. when he shoots his arrow and hits my temple, he says when he shoots his arrow, in the name of Allah, Lord of this boy. So he had that done. And then he did just like he told him to. And he died right there. So then, when the people saw that, then they became Muslims. And then, that has its own continuation. So, a wali might use karama to challenge. He might expose his sainthood as a challenge, yani for a benefit. لكن الأغلب كتمانها. However, most of the time, it is hidden. The norm is hiding it. لكن الأغلب كتمانها. However, the norm is hiding it. The wali doesn't usually display his karamas. وتفارق المعجزة السحر بأنه لا يستطيع المعارضون معارضتها بالمثل. And what makes a difference between a miracle and magic is that the opposition are unable to discredit. Here, mu'arada here means discredit. To discredit the miracle with something similar. The difference between the miracle and magic is that the opposition, yani those who are in opposition to a miracle, are not able to, so as if it says, are not able to oppose it with something similar. So oppose it here means they can't discredit it with something similar, by something similar. Because if that's his proof that he's telling the truth, then if someone can do like that and contradict him, then means it's not really a proof. So, how that makes miracle different from magic, because it means that magic is challenged by similar magic or stronger magic. وتفارق الكرامة السحر بأنها من تجري له يكون مستقيما في شرع نبيه. And the difference between a saint's privilege and magic is that the one for whom this privilege happens would be straightly upon the sacred law of his prophet. أي ملازما للطاعة على التمام, meaning adhering to the obedience perfectly. Let me see what you said here. Is it an overstatement to say the karama of the wali is a miracle for the prophet he follows? No, it's not an overstatement. It's the correct thing to say. Ameen wa fikum. That's what An-Nasafiyyah actually said in the Metin. وَيَكُونُ ذَلِكَ مُعْجِزَةً لِلرَّسُولِ. And that, which is the privilege of the saints, would be a miracle for the messenger, etc. فائدة, benefit. أغلب الأولياء يكتمون الكرامة. Most of the saints hide the privilege. لأنهم يخافون على أنفسهم الفتنة, because they fear fitna for themselves. أو أن ينفتن الناس بهم, or they fear that the people will, that some fitna will appear amongst the people because of them. That some fitna would appear amongst the people because of them. What's an example of that? Like what happened with Uzair, which is that he came back to life. He was a saint. He came back to life and he recited the Torah for the Israelites from memory, and then some of them worshipped him. So that's a fitna. لأنه قد يغلو بعض الذين يشاهدون الكرامة من العوام, because maybe some commoners who witness the privilege would become radical. فيعتقد أن صاحبها يتصف بصفة من صفات الإلهية, and then he would believe that the saint who performed this privilege is attributed with one of the attributes of godhood. ولي في الحبشة يقال له أبو محمد. There is a saint from Abyssinia or Ethiopia. He is called Abu Muhammad. ظهرت له كرامة. A privilege appeared from him. وهي أن أحد مريديه قتله الكفار, which is that one of his followers was killed by the kuffar. أغاروا على بلدة الشيخ. They raided the town of the Shaykh. وكان الشيخ غائبا, but the Shaykh himself was not there. He was away or absent. فقتلوا هذا المريد, so they killed this follower of his. ثم هذا المريد غسل وكفن. Then this follower was washed and shrouded. وأخر دفنه حتى يحضر الشيخ, and his burial was postponed until the Shaykh came. فلما حضر قيل له فلان قتلته الكفار. So then when he came, it was said to him, the kuffar killed Fulan. نحن ننتظركم للدفن. We await you for the burial. فتوجه إلى الله فدعا. Interesting wording there. He said, so he turned to God. I don't think it's understood from this direction. To say I turned to God does not mean direction. فدعا, so he prayed. فأحياه الله, and then Allah made him come back to life. الجهال الذين في تلك البلاد فتنوا. The ignorant people in those towns were tested by this. This was a fitna for them. وقالوا فيه هذا أبو محمد يشبه الله. They say Abu Muhammad is like God. عملوا شعرا بلغتهم. They composed some poetry in their own language. فيه أبا محمد أكصمدي, or I don't know how to say that. Maybe I have it written in my own copy, how that should be pronounced. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. A Abu Muhammadin mithlu Samad. What they were saying was Abu Muhammad is like a Samad. A'udhu billah. A mithlullah, meaning like God. لأجل ذلك يخفي الأولياء الكرامات في أغلب الأحوال. For this reason, the saints hide their supernatural privileges most of the time. وَقَدْ يُظْهِرُونَهَا لِضَرُورَةٍ, and they might expose them for an emergency or for urgency, for an important benefit. كَتَتْوِيبِ مُلْحِدٍ أو مُسْلِمٍ فَاجِرٍ, like to make an irreligious person become a Muslim, or even a major sinner Muslim to make him repent. Meaning he would be like not practicing Muslim, for example. He's fasiq. And then this wali he encounters does something that makes that revives something for him, or livens something for him in his heart, so he become religious. Same thing for that kafir. He would see something and then he would say this must be the right religion, then he would become a Muslim. So a saint might on purpose do a karama for a benefit like this. هذا الذي أحياه هذا الشيخ عاش بعد ذلك. This one that this Shaykh revived, he lived after that. He continued to live on after that. وولد له أولاد, and he even had children. وكان كل ولد من ذرية هذا الشخص تظهر علامة الذبح في عنقه. And every one of the children of this man was born with a sign that's like how his father's throat was slit. قال المؤلف رحمه الله, said the author, may Allah have mercy upon him. وأفضل البشر بعد نبينا أبو بكر, and the best human after our prophet is Abu Bakr, whose name is Abdullah, his given name. Best human here then means what? Top saint. Human saint. Abu Bakr is top human saint of all the awliya. That means his status higher than status of Maryam, Isa. And his status is higher than Dhul Qarnayn. And his status higher than Luqman. If you say Luqman is only a wali. Abu Bakr have higher status than all those. ثم عمر الفاروق, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, the one who was very faithful. Radiyallahu anhu, may Allah accept from him. ثم عمر الفاروق, then Umar al-Faruq, the one who tells the difference between right and wrong. ثم عثمان ذو النورين, then Uthman, the one who had the two lights. The two lights. He was married to two daughters of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Not at the same time. ثم علي المرتضى, and then Ali. And all four of them are the top human awliya, not just Abu Bakr. All those four in that order are top awliya of all the awliya. وخلافتهم ثابتة على هذا الترتيب أيضا. And their caliphate is confirmed according to this sequence also. Their caliphate is confirmed according to this sequence, that first was Abu Bakr, then Umar, then Uthman, then Ali. And so that's one thing, the caliphate sequence. And what An-Nasafiyyah is claiming, claims can be true or false, is that also their ranks in superiority, their ranks in superiority, religious superiority, also follows this sequence. That's two different things. So is this right? Also, for sure, that's the sequence of their caliphate. Is this also their rank in superiority religiously? The strong saying, that is the saying of the majority, is yes. And some of the people of the prophetic way did not speak about who's better between Uthman and Ali. So some of the people, most of the people of the prophetic way, they said Uthman is higher than Ali. And some of them didn't comment. So that's two sayings. We say some of them didn't comment, that means that's the second saying. SharH, the explanation. So I want you to notice how An-Nasafiyyah's text flowed there, talking about the Karamas of the Awliya, and then to talk about actually the highest of the Awliya, by saying وَأَفْضَلُ الْبَشَرِ, the best of humanity, بَعْدَ نَبِيِّنَا, that means we're talking about the Awliya. So he is the best of humanity after the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam. But is there anyone better than him? Yes. The messengers amongst the angels. And the best of them is Jibreel. Jibreel is the best angel. And the best angels are the messengers amongst the angels. The messengers amongst the angels are the leaders amongst the angels. So the highest rank is that of prophethood. And the best one is Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Then Abraham. Then Moses. Then Jesus. Then Noah. Then the rest of the prophets. Then, after their rank is the rank of the messenger angels, the highest being Gabriel. And amongst them is Israfil and Azrael and Mikael. Then after the master angels comes human saints. The best of them is Abu Bakr and the other three. Best female is Mary, mother of Jesus. Not from the nation of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And then after the saints, the human saints, comes common angels. common angels. So then human saint is higher than common angel. And that's if he's going to come back to this at the end of the book. This is how he ends his book. But I just want to go ahead and insert this here before I read this explanation. We'll save the explanation for next time, inshallah. So all of the angels actually are saints. The angels are Awliya, saints. And the angels are ulama, scholars. And the angels are Muslimun, mu'minun. They're Muslims and they are believers. So then the angel, he could do a karama. He might wipe on you and cure you, for example. Then under the common angel comes the God-fearing believer. God-fearing believer who's not a saint. This rank right here is a high rank. God-fearing. Taqi. Lower than the rank of wali. Wali is higher than taqi. Taqi does all obligations, avoids all haram. That's it. That's enough to be taqi. Wali does all obligations, avoids all the haram, and above that does optional good deeds, at least one kind, and stays like that. Then under the taqi comes whoever's less than him. The more sinful one is, then as a believer, then the lower his rank's going to be amongst the believers. And the fewer good deeds he does, then the lower his rank's going to be amongst the believers. Allah knows what is his rank. But this is the case here. Until you get down to the worst Muslim. Until you get down to the lowest Muslim. Most sinful one. With no obligations, for example, but he's a believer. Then his status is higher than the animal. And his status is higher than inanimate things too. His status will be higher than an animal, and status higher than inanimate things too. Inanimate thing is like the Kaaba and the Jannah. As a believer, he is to Allah nobler as a believer than those inanimate objects. But you cannot belittle those inanimate objects. You're going to commit blasphemy, because those are signs of the religion. That Kaaba, that Jannah is major belief, the Jannah. The Kaaba is a sign of the religion. You can't belittle those as blasphemy. But the believer to Allah, the believer, the living believer, he has an honor above those. Because of being alive and believing in Allah Ta'ala. And then the kuffar, they don't have any high status. They don't have any high status. So maybe that's the nicest way I could say it. طيب. Any question? We'll stop there. Can any of the jinn be believers? For sure. Yes, the jinn could be believers. That's the case. And there are. And Satan was a believer. He's an apostate. And the fact that he's an apostate means what? Means he was never a saint. Iblis was never a saint, even though he was a believer. As some scholars said, apparently he had a high status. It looked like he had a high status. He was living amongst the angels as a believer. He was worshiping Allah in the presence of angels in the garden with what appears to be a high status. And then when Allah created Adam and commanded the angels to prostrate to Adam, and he was also commanded to prostrate to Adam, and he couldn't take it. He would rather commit blasphemy than to prostrate to Adam. And that's what he did. What did Allah command the jinn to do as believers? I don't know what obligations they have and don't have. What pertains to them in terms of purification or anything like this. Except that what I know that it's a sin for a genie to possess a human. It's a major sin. It's just a major sin. It's a major sin. But that's something don't pertain to us as humans. MashaAllah. The jinn who are believers, what we learned is that most of them are major sinners. And the jinn are liars. The jinn are liars, and most of them are major sinners. But there could be a Muslim jinn, even if he's a major sinner, he might be a Muslim. And he could be a pious jinn also. He could even be a wali. Yeah, it's possible for a genie to become a wali. If he does all his obligations, he avoids all the haram, and he does optional deeds consistently, then he could become a wali also.
So is this extracted from the Quran?
Is this extracted from the Quran? You mean about a jinn becoming a wali in particular?
Or the jinn just being a Muslim?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's in Surah Al-Jinn. وَأَنَّا مِنَّا الْمُسْلِمُونَ. They said, and amongst us there are Muslims. Some of us are Muslims.
And does it say they rank in Surah Al-Jinn?
Does it say their rank, you said?
Yes. Like Wali, Awliya.
No, it doesn't mention that. Just mentions that some of the jinn are Muslims, some of them are not Muslims, most of them are not Muslims. And some of them are pious even. Salihun. Some of them are Salihun. Yeah, and some of them are other than that.
Successful.
And other than Salihun, that means major sinners. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdik ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.